There has long been the idea that top female athletes in any profession could beat males further down the rankings in whichever sport, and this theory was tested during the early days of the Williams sisters' careers, as a former men's world number 203 took on both to test their theory that they could beat any man outside the top 200. Today, we are discussing if a female tennis player could beat a male, plus the man who beat both Williams sisters. Let's jump straight in then. Could a top female beat a top male tennis player? Well, in summary, not really. Of course, we will break it down a little, but you would have to go quite far down the men's rankings before you came to a male who's world's number 1, currently Iga Swiatek. Of course, this has been proven previously, more on that later, so we're not just making assumptions here. Mixed doubles pit a team of one man and one woman against a team comprising the same, but there is no professional event which pits one woman against one man. Of course, this would be unfair to both parties, as the male would almost certainly overpower the female player. Women do excel in some areas over men, for example, flexibility. But when it comes to strength, if a male and female player each train to their maximum capacity, the male will always be stronger than the female. This was highlighted at the Australian Open in 1998. Venus and Serena were discussing how they thought they could beat any male player outside the top 200, but they were overheard by world number 203, Carsten Brosch, who encouraged them to test their theory against him. Of course, he won back-to-back matches against the pair, beating Serena 6-1 before also handing Venus a 6-2 loss. And Serena appeared to disprove her own theory after the match, as she admitted some of the shots she'd played would have been winners on the women's tour. So how does Brosch himself remember that day then? Let's see. The match between Brosch and both Williams sisters back-to-back came a quarter of a century after the infamous Battle of the Sexes between Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. You probably remember King winning, but the match has been plagued with allegations that Riggs threw the match ever since, and Carsten Brosch had his say on how the event unfolded when he played Venus and Williams back in 1998, explaining, "I was sitting there in the tournament office when the girls were saying they could beat any man ranked outside 200. He then went on to reveal, I said, I'm 203 in the world, and we can do it if you want to. I lost in the first round of singles and doubles, so I had another 5 days in Australia and had nothing to do." Of course, the sisters probably weren't expecting anyone to call their bluff. I mean, they probably actually believed they could beat a male who was ranked so low. However, Brosch's awkward style proved too much, and in a piece entitled How to Beat Both Williams Sisters, he also said, "Both sisters are great tennis players and hit the ball extremely well," before adding, "However, if you've been playing on the men's tour, there are certain shots you can play that are going to put them in difficulty." Do you guys remember the Williams sisters taking on Carsten Brosch? How did Brosch overcome the all-time female greats then? Well, as we have mentioned, men are capable of generating a lot more power than women, despite what the pseudoscientists of 2022 tell you, and Brosch himself pointing to the fact that the type of shots he was playing wouldn't have been something the ladies would be facing week in, week out. The German, who never got further than the third round of any major during his career, went on to explain that he was able to chase down every shot, which Serena herself alluded to. Brosch echoed the women's GOAT by saying, "In our match, they were putting shots into the corners that on women's tours would be winners, but I was able to return them. In the end, I won, but neither myself nor Venus or Serena took the game too seriously. We were just having a bit of fun." Carsten was, of course, being humble when explaining that neither he nor his sister was taking the match too seriously. However, shortly after losing, Serena and Venus reportedly told the waiting press that they were eager to face another male opponent. Of course, they wouldn't make the same mistake twice and give themselves much more room to maneuver, which the German pointed out by saying, this time they revised the ranking of the man they wanted to face to 350 in the world. What did you guys make of Brosch's words? Seems pretty humble, right? Next up, Ben Shapiro has caught some heat for comments about Serena. Stay with us. Right-wing political commentator Ben Shapiro caught the ire of Serena fans last month after what they claimed were chauvinistic comments about the all-time great. Talking on his podcast, The Ben Shapiro Show, he claimed that Serena wouldn't be anywhere near as famous as she is now if athletes were not separated by gender. Shapiro had tweeted, "The left is now arguing that we shouldn't separate sports by statistics. They argue that men have no biological advantage over women in athletics, which as we all know is absolutely incorrect, evidenced by the fact that Serena was easily beaten by a guy nobody outside the world of tennis had ever heard of. He then went on to say, if women and men were not separated by sex in sports, nobody ever would have heard of Serena Williams. That's not sexism, it's reality. But of course, you're not allowed to state facts anymore, as someone somewhere will inevitably be offended. One fan asked why Shapiro decided to pick on Serena, the one woman that would still absolutely dominate if she played against men. But this person clearly had done their research. Someone else pointed out that Shapiro would crumple from a Williams serve, which of course he would. But that's not the issue really, is it? We pine for the days of sensible conversation and people who don't do their utmost to throw out years of peer-reviewed scientific fact just because it might hurt someone's feelings. What about you guys? Serena has sent tongues wagging by suggesting she might be set for a sensational comeback next. As tennis fans all over the world sadly witnessed Serena Williams close the book on a remarkable career at the US Open last month, most believe that they would never again see her strut her stuff on court. However, that might not be the case if her recent comments are anything to go by. The legendary American said earlier this year that it was inevitable she would evolve away from tennis, which she appeared to do after being knocked out of the US Open at the third round stage. Serena was recently out and about promoting her investment company Serena Ventures and giving fans a glimmer of hope when she said, "I'm not retired. The chances are very high of playing again. You come to my house, I've got a court." Of course, she was more than likely just joking around, but there's almost certainly no tennis fan on the planet who would want to see her play one more time. However, the time was probably right for her to call it a day as she was beginning to show signs of decline. Serena also raised the excitement levels with her fan base last month after appearing on Good Morning America and revealing that Tom Brady had started a really cool trend by returning after retiring. Do you guys see a return for Serena in the future? And finally, Serena's man has spoken out about the impact both sisters had on the game. There's no doubting the fact that Venus and Serena Williams are behemoths of not just women's tennis, but the game in general. And Serena's husband, Alex Ohanian, has recently been discussing just how influential the pair have been for the game. The pair were never beaten in doubles finals, and Ohanian believes the pair not only have made the sport more accessible, but also made it more popular amongst average Americans. He said, "I've had a front row seat to it because the sport of tennis came to life thanks to a couple of little girls from Compton who no one even believed should have been there in the first place, and again, facts over feelings." The entrepreneur then suggested that more people are now tuning in to watch the women's US Open matches than the men's because tennis is now a sport that's actually put dollars and airtime and attention towards supporting the women on a reasonably equal playing field to the men, and the facts speak for themselves. What do you guys make of Serena's man's words? Give us your thoughts below. And as always, thanks for dropping in on us today. And remember to tune in again next time for some more fun and games. And why not do us a big favor by liking and sharing today's video, while also subscribing to our channel for more great content in the future. Bye guys!